Moving out and going to college was something I've always wanted to do straight out of high school. I don't know if it was that I wanted to be responsible or if I wanted to live alone. No matter what the case was, I was doing it. Everything was going good for the first few months. I needed a little extra cash, so I started to look for work. Of course, there were some that I preferred getting, but it never usually goes that way unless you got extremely lucky. There was an ad for a well-known grocery store. The ad didn't completely say what they were hiring for, so I went in and got an application. It didn't take them too long to call for an interview. Put on the best shirt that I could find and headed for the interview. I got the job. I was expected to start the next day, around 4 p.m. My first day was shadowing Bobby, who has worked there for a little over 3 years. The next coming night, I would be good to go and on my own. Friday came around and everything was going well. That is, until my lunch break. Since I work in the back, there's hardly any people around. I tend to work better when I'm alone. While in the locker place, I heard a very low and faint noise. Hello? No one answered. I heard one of the locker doors slam. I went to go look, and no one was there. I went to one of the aisles at the very end. Went to one of the aisles and began to stock the empty areas. Within the corner of my eye, I seen a short man with a red button shirt and a trucker hat. I thought nothing of it since sometimes we get late night shoppers, so it's never a big deal. I finished and went over to the next aisle, and there he was, in the middle of it, just standing there. Screw this guy, I said in a low voice, and I moved to the next one. 30 seconds later, he was there. I was listening to my music. I removed my headphones. Can I help you? Bet just like the last time, he had no answer. He just kept staring at me with a blank stare, the type that no matter what you did, you wouldn't be able to phase it. I continued stalking, and before I knew it, he was sprinting right at me. Without even thinking about it, I ran to the employee room, closed the door, and locked myself in. I hid under the desk that was located nearby. I waited for almost 3 minutes until I saw the shadow pacing back and forth until he stopped and left. Finally came out, looked around, and the place was empty. The next day, I told my coworkers what had happened and if they saw the guy I had encountered that night. I'll say no, ever since that night, I've never seen him again. One of my first jobs I've ever had was at one of the local Food4Less stores near where I live. Mostly everyone in town would go and shop there. As soon as I turned 18, I had my very first job. My task wasn't difficult. It was nothing more than stocking empty shelves when no one was around. The late night shift wasn't among the popular ones, but I was given it, and no matter what, I was going to stick with it. For the first few days, I was being trained. After the third, I was on my own. On my fourth week, after stocking up all the water bottles, I saw this guy. He gently walks up to me to introduce himself. Me being polite for the first time all week, replied with a hello. I'm fast, just the way I like it. Sometimes it's better that way. The next day he comes in around the same time and pretty much does the same thing. Talks to me in a few sentences and then he leaves. It keeps going for the next few days. After that, my days off come and I take off for the weekend. I went camping with a few friends up north. Had a great time, except accidentally falling off in the river. Monday evening came and one of my coworkers told me some guy was looking for me. At first, I didn't know who it was until she gives me a description of him. Of course, he would be asking for me. I mean, after all, I am only 18 and weigh about 125. The next night, I go in. He comes in, but what he says to me is something I will never forget. 2 hours into my shift, he comes in, but instead of the regular greeting, it was something different. Can I ask you something, he said. Give me a blank stare. I politely nodded my head. You're the most prettiest girl I have ever seen. Thank you, I asked, but then there was a long pause, and then he said, I can't wait until I take you home with me. He tried grabbing my hand, but by this time I knew what his intentions were. and with the perfect timing, I dodged out of the way and ran to the office. Luckily, one of my coworkers let me in, and I explained everything. By the time we got out, he was no longer there. We filed a police report, and luckily for me, he was never seen again.